As of tomorrow, millions of South Africans will receive auto-assessment text messages and tax filing on their behalf. The SA Revenue Service has readjusted this year's filing season in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The tax system, has been modernised to encourage all tax filers to move submissions online, with SARS offering 30 additional digital features. Let's unpack the story now. We're joined by SARS Commissioner Kieswetter via our Skype line. Good morning, Mr. Kieswetter. Thanks for your time on the AM report. So a lot is being said about this year's filing season being readjusted in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Take us through some of those adjustments.
Good morning, Michelle. So part of our modernization journey has always been to create a more seamless experience for the majority of taxpayers who really have standard affairs. When we were confronted by COVID-19, we obviously wanted to also provide an accelerated response in order to make a contribution to minimizing the transmission of virus. And every year we are confronted by long queues which quite frankly are undignified, and sometimes all a taxpayer needs to do is spend 5 minutes to fix up some outstanding information, to rectify or update personal information for us. So this year, we clearly have placed a bigger focus on obtaining that data from employers earlier. In addition to that, data from banks, from pension funds, from medical aids and other third-party providers. And we use the data modeling and artificial intelligence capability that we are building to then work through all of that data, take into account your compliance history, any outstanding information you may have. And so really what we can do is we can complete your assessment calculation ahead of you even submitting a return. So what an auto assessment is, making use of the data and our technology and machine learning capability, we then are presenting 3.1 million taxpayers with the opportunity to have an effort-free experience. So what that means is, when you are selected based on those criteria of having a simple income, standard deductions, you'll receive the SMS. It will tell you what the assessment outcome is, and should you accept it, you simply log onto the Mobi app or the e-filing and accept it, and your filing obligation is done. Should you, for any reason, feel you have additional information that we don't have, you are then allowed on the application to edit it and to submit the additional information, and then you can also, all of that shouldn't take you more than a few minutes. You are able to also upload documentation.
Yeah.
And effectively, for most taxpayers, this should create a seamless experience.
I mean, this is a big job for SARS, isn't it? I mean, being in touch, getting all of the relevant information from employers, from banks, from pension funds, other investments people might have. Has there been a massive upgrade to the systems at SARS?
So it's a continuous work in progress. We have, unfortunately, not all employers are fully compliant. We are continually working to reach out to those employers. But we have, as of the beginning of this week, we have received just more than 126 million taxpayer data records. And as I said, we appeal to employers to be compliant, and for employees to urge their employees to submit the final reconciliation forms, which is in our language known as the EMP 501. And then, of course, if all else fails, the taxpayer may provide the information directly to SARS.
Commissioner Kieswetter, I'm going to interrupt you there. My apologies.
We really want to discourage taxpayers from coming to our offices, to keep safe, minimize the risk of transmission,
and file from the comfort of your home.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we take just a short breather, come back with Edward Kieswetter, the SARS Commissioner, and we'll talk more about the revenue shortfall that's projected at over 300 billion rand for the year 2020-2021. That discussion continues. Stay with us. After we continue our discussion now with SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter as these auto assessments get underway from tomorrow, from the 1st of August until the 31st of August. Edward Kieswetter is still joining us via our Skype line. Commissioner, the big question, of course, as we talk about all of the issues around service delivery, around corruption and stealing from state coffers, one of the big things coming from the finance minister just last month was yet another projection of a massive revenue shortfall for this tax collection season, 300 billion rand short for 2020-2021.
So I'm not sure, but you may remember that when the minister provided the revenue estimate in February announcement, we were penciling in an economic growth nominally of 5.4%. Of course, we were already heading into a very weak economic environment. Our growth was either zero or negative already. In many instances, sectors were declining. COVID then just added another level of complexity to that. Lockdown meant that many businesses could no longer operate, consumers could no longer consume, our borders were shut. And all of that has had a significant slowdown, not only in revenue collecting activities, but sadly also in the revenue capacity. So our latest projection is that our economy will in fact shift from 5.4 to about -7. And that is then how we have made the assessment that should that growth projection materialize, our revenue can be lower by at least 305 billion rand. Now, year to date, as of the middle of July, we already are trailing behind 2.2% to the revised number, but the real reflection of the state of our economy is that we are almost 23% down year on year. And so really, this COVID-19 impact on our economy is devastating from the perspective of tax revenue collection.
Absolutely.
And then we also have to say that we are still struggling with low tax morality in some areas, still high criminal activities, all of which is the work that we have to do.
I suppose it's then an even more bitter pill to swallow for SARS, the fact that we are losing all of this revenue to the illicit cigarette trade. Tens of millions of rands, I'm not sure what the last estimate was, in illegal cigarettes being sold since the ban on the sale of cigarettes was first implemented.
Well, without getting into the actual merit of the decision, our job is to look at the revenue implication of every decision. And so, unfortunately, our concern that we express is the revenue loss from excise duties and other taxes, and we have estimated that to be about 15 billion rand year to date, but also the opportunity that has created for illicit activities to proliferate. To give you a sense, in the same period last year, we seized 15 million rand of illegal cigarettes. For the period this year, that amount was 70 million.
Sorry, Mr. Kieswetter, just tell me that number again. Last year, the number, did you say it was 50 billion?
So last year, one of our activities we embark on is to find, locate, and confiscate illegal cigarettes. Last year, for the period that we are reviewing, we confiscated cigarettes to the value of 15 million. For the same period this year, we confiscated 78 million. So you can see that, more than 4 times the amount. And we can see that if you go into the streets, people are smoking. and they're smoking because they have access to the sale of. And so our concern in this regard, Michelle, is that one of the unfortunate consequences of some of the regulations, which we understand are intended to manage health outcomes, and we have no bone with that. However, it has also given criminals the opportunity to fill the void and to establish themselves into the market, which means that our work in the future to address and reverse that non-compliant and, in fact, criminal behavior becomes just so much harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And what it also means is that we have less money ultimately in our coffers for service delivery.
Well, 15 billion, every billion matters. And we are currently, as I said to you, 82 billion rand less than last year, which is a 23% decline at a time when we need every rand of revenue. So in balancing the health outcomes with the psychosocial and the economic outcomes, government has this unenviable burden to make sure that every decision is considered on a true risk basis, because there are significant trade-offs, every one of which will have consequence for our society.
Absolutely, for livelihoods and for lives. Thanks very much for your time, SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter, speaking to us there via our Skype line. We'll get these auto-assessments. You may have gotten one of those SMSs already, in fact. SARS will auto-assess a significant number of individual non-provisional taxpayers, and that story unfolding as we speak.